Hello everyone, welcome back to Learn to Draw, but pre-recorded. I apologize for not being in class on Tuesday. I was on a flight, so I was unable to attend live, but I'm recording this for you guys to kind of follow along. And yeah, so the way I'm hoping this video will work is you guys can kind of pause after each step, just so that you guys can follow along at your own pace. You know, if life gets in the way, you guys can step away, but yeah, I'm going to try and be as clear as possible, and you can also kind of follow along and pause if you're unclear. But this week we are going to continue with our facial features. So this week we're going to be drawing an eye from the side. We drew an eye looking at it straight from the front the other day. So now we are going to get to work on this side view of it. So now we're kind of jumping into these different angles of things that we've already done, which is kind of exciting. So the materials you'll need are a pencil, or a pen is fine, and then a circular object, just to trace, or you can freehand a circle, totally up to you guys, and then an eraser if you're using a pencil. But I will get right into it. So first, I'm just going to place my circular object down, and I'm just going to trace it. Hopefully that was a good circle. Okay, well, close enough. So now that you have your circle, we're going to kind of draw the cornea of the eye. So the cornea is like the clear film over your iris that kind of protects your eye, but also helps, you see. It's like the magnifying glass, I guess. I don't know. But so you're going to want to take kind of half the circle, the radius of the circle, so half of it, and measure that. So I'll take kind of my finger, and you're just going to want to place it kind of right here on the outside. So I'm going to just section it off how long it should be, and then I'm going to take kind of a semicircle, slightly extend it, and place it over the eye. And you kind of want this as even as possible. I'm just gonna erase it just so that it's as even as I can get it. Okay. So it should look kind of like this, like the semicircle is protruding off of our base circle. And after this step, we're going to take an oval and just kind of connect the top and bottom of our oval, just kind of right in here. It's going to be a bit elongated, but this is going to serve as like our eye part. So yeah, so now that you have this, this is going to be the edge of our iris. So now that you have that done, now we can go in and add the pupil. So to add the pupil, I'm just going to take, again, a really thin oval and just kind of add that into my eye. So I've added it kind of in between the end of the cornea and the end of the iris. And now I'm going to go in and add some highlight squares. So we are working with the eye that's pretty liquid. There's a lot of liquid on it. so it's going to be very highlighted. It's going to reflect a lot. So I'm just going to add a square kind of up here. And then I'm going to add another one kind of along this cornea look. So I'm just going to kind of extend that down. So we have kind of these two highlight parts. We have the square here, and then we have this highlight down, which I'm going to kind of curve a bit so that you can tell that it's round. And now that we have kind of this base of the iris done, now we can start on the eyelid before we start shading it. So to do that, we're going to take a slight curved line down, and I'm going to start by attaching a reference point kind of right in the middle of our circle. So right at the center of our circle, I'm just going to add a small little dot. It's very unclear where the center is. And then from this dot, I'm going to add a slight curved line. So I'm going to cut the top of the iris off a bit. And then I'm just going to drag it towards the center of the circle. And then for the bottom eyelash, I'm going to drag another curved line right underneath. Just at the edge of our bottom iris. Then once you have this step completed, I'm just going to take a small hook from the top of our line and just kind of hook it around. And I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. So that's going to emphasize that we're kind of looking at it and there's stuff behind the eye. It doesn't just stop there. So it kind of signifies that there's more to it on the other side. And now I'm going to take a small line up. So I'm kind of following the shape of the circle, and I'm just going to take it up. And following this line, I'm going to take the line back. And you can add some wrinkles. If you want, you can make them really light. You can, darken them depending on your model. And then for the bottom, I'm just going to take a line down. There's not really going to be that much of a bottom crease. We're going to add that in with shading, but for now, it's kind of where we'll leave it. Then we can go in and add a little bit of a waterline. So this waterline is just going to be the same line as that bottom eyelid, but very thinly, following the same path, but curving around. And now we can start adding in the eyebrow. Actually, first I'm going to erase this base circle, just because it looks a little nicer without it there. We don't really need it anymore. So now to draw the eyebrow, we're just going to take a straight line up, and this is going to be our first reference point, so keep your line super light, and then starting from the end of the iris, take a line up, and then following this line out, just drag it out this way. So this is going to be the start of our eyebrow, and this is going to be the arch of our eyebrow, and that's going to be the tail end. So yeah, hold on, let me take this. So now, to do the eyebrow, we're gonna kind of make like an upside down Nike symbol. So it's gonna kind of start here and kind of wrap around till there. So then I'm going to kind of thicken that out a bit and I'm going to do a close inward. So it looks a little bit like that. And then once we add the individual hairs, we're gonna kind of take this out a little bit more. But for now, this is what our eye looks like. Again, you can make this, you know, as big or as small as you'd like, depending on the kind of eyebrow you would like to draw. But this is kind of just like a basic outline, and again, you can edit it with hairs and whatnot. But now we can get into the shading. So for now, it should kind of resemble an eye and an eyebrow looking to the side. But now we're going to shade it and hopefully bring it to life. So first, we're going to start by shading the white part of your eye. Don't know what it's called. I thought I knew what it was called and then I didn't. So first, this is going to be kind of our highlight area, so we're not going to be adding too much into this area. So I'm going to start by adding a super light layer, so our first layer, in kind of a triangle shape. And if you'd like, at this step, you can kind of add little veins. So to do that, I'm just going to add kind of straight, light little squiggles. And now I'm going to go through and kind of add my second layer of shading. So that's going to be closest to the lids. And this one you can extend all the way up over until like the end of the eye, because this eyelid is going to cast a slight shadow on the eye itself. So now we kind of have this all completed, and now we can go through and add shading to the actual iris. So first, the darkest part of our drawing is going to be the pupil. So we're going to just kind of start by coloring that in. And I'm going to kind of extend mine up a tad just to kind of elongate my eye. And that is not really centered, so let me just... Okay, so now we're going to go through and add kind of our first layer. So keep it super, super light, and I'm just going to go through, and everywhere that we don't have a highlight circle, I'm just going to color in. And now I'm going to go through and add our second layer. And again, I don't know if you guys remember this from our first eye that we drew, but I'm going to start by kind of going in small little motion. So kind of this kind of motion. But all around the outside pupil. So kind of like fireworks or like a fountain. And then I'm going to do it again, a little more compact. And then I'm going to go through and take small little lines extending out. Then I'm going to do the same thing, except starting on the outside ring. I'm going to go in with my second layer. And now I'm just going to go through and add kind of a dark outline on the outside of my iris. And this is just because normally we have this kind of dark ring on the outside of our eyes, and it actually has an advantage evolutionarily, which is kind of interesting. It signifies health, I think. I don't know, it means you're healthy if you have a darker line. I'm really unsure. I doubt it means that anymore, but that's the theory behind why we have a dark ring on the outside of our eyes. And I'm going to go through and just kind of darken out the edges as well. Being careful not to go in that highlight part. So it should look like that. I'm actually going to go through and darken my pupil even more because it's getting a little light. Okay, so now we kind of have this iris done, and now we can go on to shade the rest of the eye. So I'm going to start by just taking a super light layer kind of everywhere outside my eyelid. So surrounding my eyelid, I'm just going to I'm going to kind of go in like a V kind of shape. So this part here is going to kind of sit a little farther out. So this is going to be our highlight region. And then everywhere else, I'm just going to shade it a bit. And at the end, we can totally blend this, which will be really pretty. And I'm also going to do the same thing and go a little bit under the eye. So this is kind of starting our lower lid shading. So now that's our first layer, and now we can go in with our second layer. So again, if this is the highlight, then we're going to imagine a little bit of a bigger circle, and we're going to go everywhere else outside that circle. And then for the bottom lash line, since this is going to be a little closer to the light source, we're not going to shade this part, but we are going to shade towards the back of it. And don't worry, we're going to get to shading the eyelid momentarily. So now we've added that second layer, and now we can go in with our third. So I'm keeping this one a little closer to the crease. And now we can go in with our fourth layer, and this one will be a bit more concentrated, so it's actually, mine looks a little bit more like a line. And I'm going to use this to re-emphasize my creases that I drew in earlier. And now we're going to work on the crease a little bit. So I'm just going to add my first layer on the crease. Then I'm going to add my second layer. So the crease is going to be kind of where our layers are stemming from. Then I'm going to add my third layer, kind of a bit closer to the crease. And my fourth layer, I'm just going to go over that line that I went over in the beginning. And I'm going to add a little bit more here to emphasize that it's going in on that side. And I'm going to add another layer at the lash line. And this will also kind of be blended once we add the lashes. I'm also going to add a quick little layer over here on the side. All right. So now I'm going to go through and add the eyelashes. So the way we do the eyelashes are going to be similar to how we've been doing them. So they're just going to be kind of flicks, flicks. You're going to want to focus it with the root and then just drag it up, drag it up, drag it up. And since it's a little bit more at a side angle, they're going to be a little more curved. So kind of like J shapes. And you're going to want to put them kind of right at the base, if not a little bit above this eyelid. So I'll just kind of start. And you're going to want to put them all the way around to, I'm so sorry, I got a call. I'm just going to keep, okay, everything's falling apart now. But I'm just going to keep kind of adding my eyelashes, and I'm just going to keep making them longer, because this is a pretty close-up view of the eye, and they're going to look longer. And I'm just alternating directions a bit, just because sometimes eyelashes can be a little bit crazy. And now I'll add them to the bottom. I'm just going to add them where the lower lash line ends. Same technique. And yeah, so that is the eyelash part. So now I'm not really liking how it looks like my eyeball is just kind of floating, so I am going to add a bit more just of this first layer down. And if you want to, you can kind of add that second layer slightly just to signal that there is a bit of a crease. But now we can go through and add our eyebrow hair. So this hair is going to be similar to how we did the eyelashes, so I'm just going to kind of flick my pencil. And if you can sharpen your pencil, that would be great. This does tend to look a little bit better if your pencil is sharper. Mine is not. I have no idea where my, pencil sharpener went. But we make do. And as you kind of get to the arch, your hairs are going to kind of flatten out and go a little bit more horizontal. And I'm sure if you've looked at your eyebrows, you've noticed that it's like kind of the top starts to chime in and kind of switches from being on the bottom to being on the top, and then they come together to form that tail. So again, my pencil is a bit thick, so it looks slightly strange. But you want to just kind of keep adding hairs. Just in whatever direction, just to kind of get this looking as realistic as possible. You can even look at your own eyebrow for inspiration on what directions the hair should go and whatnot. But that is pretty much it for drawing an eye. Obviously, more time, you guys can go through and clean it up a little bit. I'm probably going to do that a bit at the end of this video. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have questions, I'd be happy to answer them either by email or at the beginning of next class. But great job, you guys. I'm sure your pieces look beautiful. Make sure to send Ariel your finished pieces, and I'm just going to kind of add some more detail. I won't really be talking, but if you guys want to, feel free to stay on. Thanks, guys. So this is the finished look. This was kind of the reference photo, and this is what we ended up with. Look at the little shadow right there. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. See you next week. Bye. I did go in and shade it with my finger so it looks a little more blended, so that's also an option.